What is going on, everyone? You are all very welcome to the Gaelic Gridiron podcast presented by Print My Pint. Make sure you check out their website over at printmypint.ie and on social media. We are back after our Christmas break. It is New Year's Eve week, if you can believe that. Week 18 of the NFL season incoming. We're looking back at week 17, which was absolutely jam-packed with Saturday football. I forgot Saturday football was on again this week. It's always different at this time of year. So we have a very, very busy episode, lots to get through, lots to talk about, and of course, a massive week incoming. Jimmy English, Conor Tate, and joined by James Kellett. Always a pleasure to have James Kellett on the show. And the reason that James is stepping in is because our usual contributor, Stephen Kearns. Congratulations to Stephen and his wife Claire on the birth of their daughter 2 days ago. An early arrival, an early Christmas present for them. So Twist will be, I suppose, indisposed for the next couple of weeks because I don't think Claire would let him anywhere near the podcast until that all kind of calms down. So massive congratulations to them, and we're looking forward to having Twist back on the podcast. But lads, lots to get through, as I said. I don't know where to even start. I suppose we'll start with the Texans and Chargers on Saturday night. That Saturday night doubleheader. Your dad must be a happy man, Conor, after the Texans getting the win over the Chargers.
That was a good Saturday night. We certainly remembered Saturday night football was happening because that was a huge game. Houston lived up. They hit the two deep bombs early. I did fear when they went up 14-0 inside the first quarter. I thought they might not score again the entire game. But they managed to squeak it out, and the Texans defense is one of the best defenses we have ever seen in the last decade. So they're real. And I know the offense is not the best, but with that defense, you can win any game in the playoffs. And it looks like now, with them sitting at the 5 seed, they will get the winner of Steelers Ravens next week. So, yeah, it was a good night to be in the Tate household. That's for sure.
Yeah, especially James. I mean, you look at CJ Stroud, the performance he had. They started off well, and it's kind of been, I suppose, reminiscent of his playoff season. There are flashes there, but it's really a lack of consistency on the offensive side of the ball for the Texans, which could be their downfall when they make it to, well, they are in the playoffs now. So when they get to the postseason and it's win or go home, and you have to be playing at your best, you really want your entire offense to be at its best. You can't be relying on your defense too much. A lot of teams have been relying consistently on their defense this year, but CJ Stroud, he really has to step up his game and be the kind of all-around player throughout the entire game if the Texans want to have any sort of chance of progressing beyond the wildcard round.
Yeah, I think I like them to go pretty far in the playoffs, like Conor said, with that defense. I think last year they were pretty unlucky against the Chiefs. They could have won that game in the early rounds of the playoffs, and the main reason they didn't is because the offense was stuttering. And this year it's not perfect, but it is way better. And I think that's down to having actually viable deep threats available right now. Because when Tank Dell went down last year, there was nothing there. So they went out and they got Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, both from Iowa State. And both of them can go deep. We saw Stroud has a connection with them. It might have taken him a while to get it going because he didn't play a lot. But this game was a big one for me because I know they got wins against the Bills, but that was with Davis Mills at the helm. They'd won some easy games since Stroud came back, and I really wanted to see him do it against a proper defense. And as Conor said, he blew out the gates early. And then Herbert on the other side instantly sacked from Danielle Hunter on the first drive and then Will Anderson Jr. on the second drive. That really set the tone. So I think that's a very, very good recipe, and I would fancy him against either a banged-up Lamar Jackson or a Steelers team who is kind of stuttering at the moment.
Yeah.
Also, on the flip side, Jimmy, on that note, talking about the Chargers, I've seen enough from them. They're not going anywhere in the playoffs. They've been great this year, but they were banging on about the offensive line and the struggles and all the changes and 26 different variations and whatever. That's never going to work.
It's impossible. It's impossible to get any sort of consistency, especially for you know, or any sort of rhythm when you don't have an offensive line playing together often enough. I mean, an offensive line is a fine organism, and the players they have to know each other inside out for that to function effectively. And it's not really, and like it was a brave effort from Justin Herbert. I think when he was being protected by a third and fourth string offensive line, and like you said, that they have played admirably all season. But like you say, I think they've reached the end of the road in terms of how much they can achieve with what they have at their disposal this season.
You've used admirably. You've used, well, I'm going to throw it in, valiantly. These are all, connotations to losers. Let's face it. People that played really well but didn't quite get there, and that's going to be the Chargers this year. They've done really well, but just it's not a winning recipe, that the offensive line situation fiasco they have. So I'm out on the Chargers. I don't think they'll win a single playoff game.
The other, I suppose, more impressive victory on the Saturday night doubleheader was the Ravens beating the Packers. I don't think anyone saw that coming. And this is what I hate about the late night games in America. These are all games that I would love to watch live. I just do not have the capability to stay up past midnight or past 12:30. I might very, very possibly get the first half of the games this weekend. It is unlikely, but what a fantastic victory for. I mean, I'll give them the credit. I'm a Steelers fan. I hate seeing the Ravens win, especially when they've come back from the death. And they were at the death. They were dead and buried when Lamar Jackson was out, and they were relying on Snoop Huntley and their running game. But they came out and they blew the Packers away on Saturday night, 41-24, an absolute shootout. And it all came down on the Ravens side, Conor, to Derrick Henry, who had a career game, 4 rushing touchdowns, broke several records in the process. So the fact that they did it without Lamar Jackson at quarterback was even more impressive.
It is. The Green Bay are on 2 de facto bye weeks now because they're going to be the 7th seed. So that's worked out well for them. They might be sneaky good in the playoffs, especially if they can get Jordan Love back. And Malik Willis was incredible.
He was.
Actually on Saturday night. But I feel like the Green Bay team has kind of checked out for these next 2 weeks, and there's no reason for them not to because they're locked into that 7th seed. We were talking about the Ravens and when Lamar went down and it was Cooper Rush quarterbacking, and we're just like, this just isn't going to work. Where is Snoop Huntley? And now he's come back into the fold, and look at them. I mean, I think the Ravens can win any game with Tyler Huntley at quarterback. I genuinely mean that. He's not as good a version of Lamar, but he is a version of Lamar. So they can keep their same offense going. They can keep the dual threat run in the backfield, and when you have that dual threat run in the backfield, teams can't key in on Derrick Henry, and he can explode. So I'll tell you what, the Ravens, even if it's Huntley playing next week, which it probably will be, right? They're probably the favorites over the Steelers, but the way they're 100%. Playing recently, I mean, the Steelers look awful.
Yeah, absolutely awful.
I feel like it was destined to come down to this point. The
Steelers Ravens AFC Championship North on the line. It's just, you can't. It's worked out exactly the way the NFL scriptwriters wanted it to work out this way. Sunday Night Football, Week 18, everything on the line, win or go home. It really is it's ridiculous, right?
And Pittsburgh don't have to worry because they have their winning season. So
yeah, once they got to 9, that was it. Rodgers was more worried about losing, having the sack record against him than he was winning that game. But on the Ravens side, I agree with you, Conor. I think they could be a dangerous team come the playoffs because they might be somebody who they're not expected to do well without Lamar. You might underestimate them, but how many pieces they were missing early in the season? They were missing I think 5 of their top 7 in cap hit for a majority of the season, over 100 million not on the field in their cap space. So you can't really have a good season like that. Again, they were stuttering. The Packers seem to be a team that are, I don't know, there's some issues there. This season, teams were 8-0 when they have 0 punts, and the Packers are 0-3 when they have 0 punts. Every other team has won a game when they don't punt.
What a stat.
That's a ridiculous stat, and that has to come down to coaching at some point. You can't lose 3 games without punting. So I'm not sure if that's going to work in the playoffs. It's most likely they're going to play the Bears again because the Bears will lock in their 2 seed. Packers are the 7 seed. And I like the Bears going there and getting it done and winning the series 2-1 over the season on the Packers. I don't know. There's just something about them. I just don't think they have it together this year. And there's always been questions of LaFleur that might come to more of a head in the playoffs.
I mean, that's ridiculous that they're not punting when they have arguably the league's best punter in Dan Whelan, who by the way has now played his 50th NFL game in that game on Saturday night. So congratulations to Dan Whelan on that achievement. Unfortunately, he missed out on the Pro Bowl. We had high hopes that he would make the Pro Bowl and become the first Irishman to make the Pro Bowl. But the future is bright for the for Irish NFL players, especially our own Charlie Smith, who we'll get to later on in the episode, because he had a fantastic day again yesterday against the Tennessee Titans. I want to talk about Malik Willis as well for a minute, because and it was mentioned during the broadcast that I watched back the highlights, that Malik Willis, with that game that he had against the Ravens, he could well have put himself in the conversation for a starting role somewhere in 2026. And I think this was, it was, again, it's like an audition for him, right? And every time he's come in for relief of Jordan Love, he has played exceptionally well. 18 out of 21 passing against the Ravens, a career high 288 yards and a touchdown, 134.6 rating, but also he was also the Packers' leading rusher. He had 9 rushes, 60 yards, and 2 read option touchdowns. And I think the rushing touchdowns were more impressive than his passing stat line, because he really kind of proved that he is that kind of dual threat player that teams love to have, and most teams will opt to have that kind of dual threat quarterback. So I'd be very curious to see where he ends up in 2026. And personally, if this is indeed Aaron Rodgers' last season in the NFL, and I think it could well be, I would not mind seeing the Steelers pick him up as their quarterback in 2026.
I think it looks like Indianapolis Colts written all over it. Be interesting to see how Malik Willis does next week, because he goes to Minneapolis. And Vikings, whether you like him or not, they're on a 4-game win streak, and that defense has been lights out for the past 4 weeks. Flores, I mean, what they did. We're not going to talk about Christmas Day, and I'm not going to bring the Minnesota Vikings into this because they're out of it. But what they did on Christmas Day to the Detroit Lions, Max Brosmer won that game by 13 points. He passed for 50 yards. That hasn't happened since 2006. That was a statistical unicorn of a game from the Minnesota Vikings defense. So really interested to see how Malik fares against just a team that is humming right now. And if he can put on some more good tape against them, yeah, he may well get a starting gig somewhere.
It would be interesting to see where he lands, because I think it's the type of thing where if he does end up with the Colts, I'd say Shane Steichen will just use him to perfection, and next year could be a nice year with him there. But if he ends up on the Steelers or on the Jets, it's just one of those things where he's going to be just tragically bad, and everyone's going to say, "Why did you pay this guy?" It's always situational. It's always coaching with these guys. Like, he has an excellent coach there. I know I kind of went in on Matt LaFleur a little bit a minute ago, but he is a very good offensive mind, maybe not game management wise, but some of the things he's drawn up for Willis, he doesn't have that with Love. And you can see that clearly. Like, the previous week, the reason they lost was due to fumbles and silly mistakes. It wasn't due to Willis coming into the game. He was kind of electric for Packers fans to watch, because they don't have that with Love. That dual threat ability is kind of the modern NFL that a lot of fans do want to see.
If Jordan Love is like 95% come playoff week, but Malik Willis lights it up again this week, do you go with Malik?
No,
you have to go with Love.
You have to go with Love. You go your starting quarterback in the playoffs, no matter like. But I'm curious, Conor, why would you see him going to Indianapolis? Do you think the Colts move on from Daniel Jones in the offseason?
I don't think they have a choice. Daniel Jones blew his Achilles out, and I love Daniel Jones. I'm gutted for him, but he's not going to be back until maybe October at best. I don't know. Maybe he finds Rodgers' doctor and he gets the Achilles sorted. But even so, through the entire offseason, he's not going to be putting any weight on that, or he's not going to be throwing much in OTAs and stuff. So you're going to need a bridge guy, and it doesn't have to be a 45-year-old quarterback. You can go get a young kid, and he might be brilliant. So yeah, Malik Willis is looking at one of those bridge Baker Mayfield contracts potentially. Indy looks like the landing spot. If I was Malik, I would avoid the Jets like the plague. So I would, of all the suitors out there, I would choose Indy. If it's on the table.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you say, Philip Rivers. I don't know. I think it was a nice idea in theory, and it was a nice storyline to bring him back out of retirement where he was coaching. But he just, whatever the Colts front office were thinking, it was obviously a Hail Mary that fell very, very short. Especially you look at the game yesterday. He does not have the deep ball, the deep arm anymore, the same way that Rodgers does. Rodgers is a couple of years younger, or even the way Tom Brady still had the deep arm, more or less when he was playing at his final years down there in Tampa Bay. But there's no deep threat there. We saw he had a deep pass attempt there, Philip Rivers did, to Alec Pierce, and it fell short and ended up being an incompletion because he couldn't get downfield.
Watch the pick six, or not the pick six, but the pick near the end that was nearly housed. Right, the outcut against the blitz. He knew what was coming. He made a perfect decision. He just couldn't execute.
Yeah.
right? He can see it. You can see he sees it. He's brilliant. He's top 5 in the league in terms of recognition. We can't get the ball there, so he
Yeah.
can't play.
And it's
The
kind of
over
sad. It's kind of sad in a way, like watching him play. I mean, I don't think he should have ever come out of retirement. Maybe he thought he had something left in him, and like to a certain extent he does. But I just think like not that he's exactly tarnished his reputation or kind of, but it's almost like seeing your childhood hero coming back and just not having it anymore. Kind of a superhuman turned human. But like look at the Jaguars. Jaguars are they're absolutely lighting up right now, and they're getting hotter and hotter at exactly the right time, James. And they kept their winning streak going. I think it's 8 or 9 games now. Their winning streak is, and all but sealed the AFC South with that win over the Colts yesterday.
Yeah, I think that was a team that I didn't see making this big of a jump this quickly. So Liam Cohen is the first time head coach to get a team to 12 wins, I believe now, after they only won 4 the previous season. So he's done an unbelievable job, and he's done an unbelievable job with Trevor Lawrence. There looked like there was teething issues early on, and Lawrence looked probably the worst he had ever looked. In the first maybe 8-9 weeks, even though they were winning some games, it was down to the takeaways on defense, and that's never sustainable. So I thought, okay, this is just a bad team, and it's a disaster waiting to happen. But then something clicked. Cohen and Lawrence got their thing going. Lawrence started looking after the football. He stopped throwing as many interceptions. Errant throws. I believe there was a game he had, I think it was against the Cardinals, 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And he came out after that game and kind of said, "Oh, that's just the way I play. I'm never going to stop doing that." Since then, he's really removed the interceptions. So I think behind the scenes, Cohen said, "Yes, you are removing that from your game. This is how we're going to play." And now they look like a team that the offense does support the defense. They're cohesive. They're a good unit. They have a very, very good kicker, which is important in the playoffs too. So if they win that division, yeah, I would be worried about coming up against them in the playoffs this year.
Especially the way, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, he's cleaned up his game in terms of interceptions, but he's always been a good rusher, but he's relying on his legs more, and he's finding more running lanes. I mean, it's back-to-back weeks where he's had 2 rushing touchdowns now, I believe, and that's an extra element to his game that teams are going to have to keep it or have to be aware of, and defenses will have to be aware of it when it comes to the playoffs, and whoever they come up against, they're going to have to, be conscious that at any point Trevor Lawrence could find a running lane and take off and gash you for yards there as well, Conor.
The only team better than Jacksonville in the AFC at the moment is the New England Patriots. Nobody else is going to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. If they keep playing the way they've played, they're going to beat every single team in the AFC with the exception of New England. So if they avoid New England until the AFC Championship, I think Denver might go one and done. I think they might get the 1 seed next week and go one and done, genuinely. So
yeah,
we'll see what the playoff picture looks like, and then we'll attack it when we see it. But
we're gonna have a whole podcast dedicated to the playoff preview and all the different things that happen there.
And, yeah, we got to draw them up and pick each other apart when we mess it up inevitably. But yeah, let's see how it unfolds. But Jacksonville, the real deal. They're no longer sleepers. You can't call them a sleeper now. They're excellent. They have been for a while.
The Broncos, I think, James, are the apparent number 1 seed in the AFC, and they, like Conor says, if they beat the Chargers in Week 18, they seal up the number 1 seed and they have their first round bye and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But in my mind, I think everyone else would agree, the Patriots are the real number 1 seed in the AFC, just the way they're playing. And look, they could have put 60 points up against the Jets yesterday. The fact that Josh Dobbs came in and will likely start for the Patriots next week. I think they're playing Miami. So there's no point in even risking Drake May during that. But Drake May had 5 passing touchdowns. Jets are just an absolute dumpster fire. And I think the Patriots, it's their first AFC title since Tom Brady was in New England. And I think that speaks volumes about a first-year head coach and Mike Vrabel and what he's done with Drake May. And Drake May is clearly the future in New England. So, yeah, I think the Patriots are going to be the team to beat in the AFC when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah, I have question marks about both teams still. The Broncos, as you said, Conor, I 100% agree. 1 seed, regardless, they're not good enough. And they showed it against the Jags. The Jags just absolutely destroyed them. Bo Nix, yeah, you're clutch, but why do you have to be clutch against a Chiefs team with a 3rd-string quarterback that just lost to the Titans? Why do you have to be clutch against the Giants? Why do you have to be clutch against the Raiders? You shouldn't be in these situations. And that's not going to work when you play big teams in the playoffs in big moments, whether you're at home or not. The Patriots, much more complete team. Drake May
Much more
is,
consistent as well, and much more
yes,
even. I
but
mean, Bo Nix seems to show up at the last minute
yeah,
when when he needs to pull it out of the bag instead of playing evenly and consistently throughout the entire game. It's always a last minute comeback or a 1 point victory or a one
yeah,
score victory for the Broncos, and that's been their story all season. And it's like I've been saying, that's not going to fly in the playoffs
No.
when it's win or go
yeah.
home.
But you would look at the games the Patriots have won. They've only beaten one team that's over 500. So we can't say that
That is
they're
insane.
a team that's ready to win. Like the Giants have beaten more teams over 500 this season. Like it's not a team that I'm willing to say yet they're all the way there, because they need to do it in the playoffs before we can say. It's easy to say they need to do it in the playoffs, but if they did it in the regular season, the way that we're seeing the Niners do it this season, really tough
Yeah.
schedule, the way we're seeing the Bears do it, they're not doing that. They're beating horrendously bad teams and they're absolutely hammering them. But when it comes down to it, will they have that ability in the playoffs? Because their defense, they're not coming up against any challenge. So it's easy to be good, and they're still not in the top level of the league. So I think they could be a team that people are expecting to go very well, and they might do in 2 or 3 years, but they could fall off early this season.
Who do we fancy right now in the AFC? Who goes all the way? Who's in the AFC Championship game come the end of January, Conor?
I think the Patriots will be there because they're going to be at worst the second seed. So that means they'll be at home all the way until the AFC Championship, and they might even host the AFC Championship because I don't think Denver will be there. So I do like the Patriots. I'll take them. I like Houston as well though to be there.
Yeah, I think if Houston end up playing the Patriots in the wild card round, that'll be the Houston's big win, and it'll get them rolling. I think that would be a massive game. I really like the Texans, and I like the Bills regardless of
Yeah.
what happens to them in the regular season. They're waiting for the playoffs, and they have Josh Allen. If they were smart, they'll shut him down next week, and he'll be ready to go in the playoffs.
Well, I watched 3/4 of the game between the Eagles and the Bills last night, and obviously both teams are just playing for seeding now. They've already clinched playoff spots. And again, from what I could see, both teams were kind of limited on offense. Like the Eagles, from what I was just reading afterwards, and it's they've been criticized the entire season for being a first half team, are not finding enough rhythm or consistency, or getting any ideas on offense. And it was a very close game. The Bills almost came back and beat them. And I think if Josh Allen had been at full strength, you could see that he was hampered. He wasn't his usual mobile self, and he wasn't as dynamic a rusher as he has been. And that came down to the foot injury he suffered a few weeks ago. And I think actually I saw on Twitter that he had an X-ray this afternoon. So I think, look, if they should kind of cut their losses at this stage, perhaps, and just shut him down and go to the playoffs and get what they take and have Josh Allen healthy.
That's probably the move. And I don't think Philadelphia are all they're cracked up to be. They've profited from being in a fairly weak NFC East this year. They've strolled to the division title. I don't think we'll see them go too far. I think the entire NFC West is better than Philadelphia and Chicago in the North as well.
Yeah, and they've pretty bad offensive ability this season. Like, regardless of their defense, it's not the same as 2 years ago when they crashed out, because that time the defense kind of fell apart too. This time the defense is carrying them. There's been 10 games this year where a team had fewer than 5 passing yards and a half. Philadelphia has 3 of them, and somehow they've won all 3. That's not sustainable. They're not good enough either. That the NFC is way too strong, regardless of where they finish. I hope it's the 3 seed, because I want to see that Bears and Packers matchup. That would be great stuff. But yeah, I think regardless, they're done early.
I want to talk about and obviously if Twist was here, he'd be off in a tirade about the state of the Steelers offense against the Browns last night. And look, everyone was kind of saying beforehand that this was going to be an old-fashioned slugfest, and it really was. And I think the fact, look, we're kind of stating the obvious here, but the Steelers are so reliant on DK Metcalf as their deep threat that with him missing and suspended for this game and for the showdown against the Ravens next week, that was a massive factor in the Steelers offense being so limited. I mean, the fact that we had the Steelers' longest play of the game was a 29-yard rush by Conor Hayward on they line up in that what they call the Spartan formation, where you have Conor Hayward under center. So that was a great play. But apart from that, I mean, the offense was just absolutely terrible. And look, the weather played a factor to a certain extent, but there was a phase towards the end of the game, the dying seconds, where Aaron Rodgers was driving down the field and attempting to send the game to overtime or perhaps win it. And I was kind of like, where has this urgency or this play been the entire game? I mean, back-to-back strikes to Pat Fryermuth down the middle, but then 3 straight pass attempts targeting, I think it was Grant. Targeting Marquez Valdez-Scantling in the end zone. He could not haul it in. So I think and especially after what they did to the Lions defense last week, they had a fantastic game utilizing Kenny Gainwell. So it just kind of baffled me the struggles that the offense had last night, James.
Yeah, I don't know what really the idea was. I know you mentioned like that no Metcalf, it ruled out a lot because it kind of limits the play action a bit. Like Rodgers is not going to really have a whole lot available to him down the field. Then you're looking at tight ends a lot, which I know he goes to tight ends a lot, but he still doesn't have that connection with Jonnu Smith that you'd like.
Or Fryermuth. I mean, Fryermuth's been completely absent the past month and a half in Pittsburgh.
And then you look at the Browns' run defense is extremely tough, especially at home. Maybe that was in their mind. Really, I can't explain it from watching how they played. You would think they could get something going to the point where you have more than 6 points when you have to seal your season. Like, this is it. You don't want to let it go down. They knew that the Ravens won. They knew they had to win, or it goes to the last week. But they couldn't get it done. And I don't know, could be Rodgers' last game in the NFL next weekend if the Ravens manage to get it done, which is crazy to think about that too.
I can explain it. It's hard to beat a division rival to win a championship. And the Browns knew that Cleveland did not go into that game wanting Pittsburgh to win on their turf. That's never ever going to happen. The Browns are the best pass defense in the NFL. I know they're awful with a record, but they're the best pass defense in the NFL. They're really, really good. Go back if the Steelers don't make the playoffs. Go back to last week in Detroit and look for the moment where DK Metcalf seeks out this idiot fan with the blue wig to have a go at him. Like, talk about a selfish act that might define a season. Who knows whether they win yesterday with Metcalf or not, but you cannot dispute that it's an incredibly selfish act from a very highly paid human being. And it may well cost Pittsburgh a place in the playoffs.
Well, they certainly suffered without him there, because there was just nothing happening down the field in terms of deep pass attempts. I mean, Thielen had 2 drops, I think. Valdez-Scantling had a number of drops. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers couldn't find them when they needed them in the back of the end zone, trying to win the game. And Tony Romo was saying it as the Steelers were driving down the field. If the Steelers score here, I think they're going to go for 2, and they probably would have gone for 2 and tried to win it.
Throw it to Valdez-Scantling again? Was that the game plan when they got down there?
It seemed to be the only option, because he wasn't. The whole lack of targeting Kenneth Gainwell as a receiver. He was the Steelers' second best leading receiver up until that point, and I don't think he had a single target last night.
It's just not good enough. Like it's just not good enough. Like, they should have gone no huddle earlier. I don't know why teams don't go. I don't know why. Why do we always see games won at the end? Because they go no huddle. You get base defense, right? Just do that in the middle of the third quarter randomly. You'll probably drive down the field a minute and a half. But it just wasn't good enough in Pittsburgh, man. And I think the Ravens are now the favorites. I'm disappointed, man. I've been shouting for Pittsburgh the whole time because of these damn podcasts. And it looks like they're going to blow it right at the death. So, it sucks. But hopefully they can pull it out of the bag next week. And we'll get to see Aaron Rodgers at least one more run in the playoffs. And but it's that Houston defense if they get there. So good luck.
You're right, James, about the fact of playing against a divisional rival. It's always tough when you play someone in your division. Like you said, the rivalry is there, but that still doesn't explain like the way they went about this game. Like you said, a lot of the play calling or a lot of the decisions, there was no urgency. And like now, next week you have to play another divisional rival. Like
you are right. You are right, because
look
at the Patriots and what they did to the Jets. Right, if the Jets beat them, I could have my argument and say, "Oh, it's a division rival; they don't want them to do well." You're right. So everyone plays division rivals. It's inexplicable. There's a lack of something in Pittsburgh, and it's not good.
There's a lack of fire. Like, it's just a complete lack of.
Yeah.
I honestly think the Steelers'
They've got
offense
the winning season.
But I think the Steelers' offense was more concerned with stopping Myles Garrett last night and not letting him get the sack record against Aaron Rodgers than actually winning the game. I think that was the entire focus of that game. and it took the Steelers' attention away from actually beating the Browns. And like,
Garrett even said that himself after the game. He said that he felt that they were more worried about stopping him having the sack on Rodgers than
and you can
playing
see it,
offense.
and you could see that every time Aaron Rodgers took the snap, he was looking for Myles Garrett, and there was several plays where Garrett certainly affected Aaron Rodgers' throwing, his timing, etc. So you can't argue that he didn't have an effect, but it shouldn't have been the sole focus of the Steelers' offense.
No.
Their offense should have been scoring points. I like even the fact that like TJ Watt wasn't playing for the second or third straight game because of his lung. That certainly had an impact because we barely got near Shadur Sanders. Forced 2 interceptions, couldn't score points off it. And then Chris Boswell, the most reliable kicker in the league, almost missed another one. So you're leaving points in the field. I think it was just a really, really flat performance, which is disappointing considering they had 3 of the best games in a row there recently.
And Baltimore is a team that you put away, a bit like the Chiefs. When you get a chance to put them in the ground, put them in the ground. Don't leave them breathing. Just a very, very disappointing to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I would imagine.
I can tell you, I can confirm that it is. It was a very disappointing game to watch. Let's move on to something positive, and let's talk about something good for a change instead of me giving it about Pittsburgh this entire podcast. Charlie Smith had another fantastic game for the New Orleans Saints yesterday as they came back to beat the Tennessee Titans and take another step closer to potentially, well, they're not going to win the NFC South division at this stage, but they are certainly putting together a nice run to the end of the season and setting up 2026 nicely. And it looks like Tyler Shock will be their starting quarterback moving forward. He really has had a fantastic run of games when he has been in there. Charlie Smith hit a 57-yard career-long field goal to go along with a 56-yarder, which tied his career-long. He did have an early miss from 43 yards out, his first attempt at the game. I was worried. I was kind of worried because, look, no matter how much your team loves you or how good you are, you're only as good as your last kick as an NFL kicker, and it is a very kind of tenuous job position to have in the NFL. But it was his 5th consecutive start, Conor. He really has gone from strength to strength in his brief time as the NFL starter and the starting kicker for the Saints, and has such a bright future ahead of him in the league if he can continue this run of form.
Yeah, I think the good thing is just a little bit less chatter about how foreign he is and how special a story he is. And it's now just, the Saints kicker Charlie Smith is no longer the Irish guy or the international this, that, or the other. And that's a good thing, right? He's not the outsider. He's now just the solid kicker. And he looks really, really good. And I think the timing was perfect because he's had this sort of trial run, 5-6 games in the season, and then he gets this big off season. And as long as he kicks solid next week, there's really not too much negative stuff to go into the off season with, and you've got a whole 6 to 8 months to really work on it. And I don't know what he needs to work on, whatever he needs to work on, but he will feel fairly secure in that kicking job, which is, I would assume, a very nice feeling for an NFL kicker to go into an off season. So I think the timing's worked out really well, and week on week he's getting game balls because he's doing special things. So
three in a row now, and the fact that it's like what you said there. The storyline, the kind of foreignness, the kind of attention has kind of gone away now to a certain extent, and it's the announcers aren't talking about his GAA background or NFL international player pathway. It's just, here's Charlie Smith, the Saints starting kicker, out to an attempt. And I think that has to help him, right? Because he knows now that he's just doing his job. There's no audition really. It's his job for him to lose, and all he has to go out there is all he has to do is go out there and execute and make those kicks. So you have to imagine that takes a lot of weight off his shoulders.
Well, he's past the stage now where he can, like 3 weeks ago he couldn't have missed that 43-yarder. But now he can afford to miss a 43-yarder, so that must alleviate a lot of the stress. And just delighted for him.
I can guarantee as well, if yesterday he missed the 43 and then he missed another 50 plus, he's the Irish guy again. Oh, the Irish guy is wavering. This might have been a nice story, but now we're in trouble, which is massive props to him, because there's so much stress on the line, regardless of if the Saints season is over or not. He wants to prove his worth every single game he's out there, and to miss a 43-yarder and then go to pipe a 57. You saw how hyped up his teammates for him. They were all shoving him around, and they seem to absolutely love him. So I think that shows the kind of mettle he has, and the belief they have in him, and the belief he has in himself. And game balls aside, I think it seems like Kellen Moore gives out about 15 game balls after every game. I don't know.
They're kind of losing their meaning a little bit. I mean, the first one I can understand when he hit the game winner against Carolina. Okay, that gets a game ball. It kind of not that it takes away from it, but it is a bit much.
I think if he's got any spare balls kicking around, I could do with a couple actually. Can you lose? So
yeah, I think it's outside the game balls. It's his ability that we all think we can all see it every single week. So whether he's getting them or not, I think he is an NFL kicker now. And
you have to wonder. You have to wonder though about the Saints. Like if Tyler Shock had a starter from the start and Charlie Smith had a starter from the start, how different the Saints season would have been? Because they're putting together a nice little run to finish out the season.
I think it would have been the same. To be honest, there was so much negativity around the Saints to start the year, and there was just no life in the team. It's worked out well for Tyler Shock, but I don't think they were going any. Now saying that, the NFC South has been garbage. Yeah. So maybe they would have been competing. You're right. Actually, I take back what I said. I retract it. Maybe the Saints would be in the playoffs if Tyler Shook had started. Bad decision from Kellen Moore.
We could have had an 8 and 9. We could have an 8 and 9 winner of that division. So it's not too much of a jump, really. And Shook is the second favorite in offensive rookie of the year right now. So some turnaround from when he started with the team. He's yesterday in the second half. He's absolutely unbelievable. So looks like they've got their guy at least. And Kellen Moore is clearly a very, very strong offensive-minded coach, so they got the right guy there too.
Especially with Conor, as you predicted correctly, the NFC South next weekend is going to come down to that matchup between the Buccaneers and the Panthers, two teams who lost quite badly yesterday. I mean, Baker Mayfield had a meltdown. I don't know what happened to him there. And look, obviously the Panthers losing to the Seahawks as well. So it's coming right down to the wire, and the Saints have beaten both those sides in recent weeks. So it just goes to show you, I mean, any given Sunday in the NFL.
Any given Sunday, Jimmy. Yeah, we called this back in week 15 that we could switch off for a couple of weeks. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It just it's frustrating that a really bad team is going to get into the playoffs, and they're not really, really bad, but also they don't deserve to be there whatsoever. And not only that, they're going to host a playoff game. So it brings up this argument again of because Seattle and San Francisco are going to go at it right after them, and the loser of that game is going to go on the road as a 5 seed. Like Sam Darnold might be the 5 seed again after a magical year, and you're going to have Carolina or Tampa Bay hosting a game. And every year this happens. So I would argue that the winning the division gets you in, but it's still based on wins. Like if you're 8 and 9, you're on the road. I'm sorry, but you're on the road. You should
be on the road. By rights, you should be on the road. The fact that a team with a losing record in the NFL can even make the playoffs as a division winner, it's still.
I think there is some reasoning there to have each division winner in, but I don't think they should get the privilege of hosting it. Minnesota went on the road with 14 wins last year. That's just ridiculous. I mean, it's a bit farcical, but yeah, we have 3 great games next week, and it is one of them. It might not be a great game, but it is an important game to see who has the right to go and lose in the opening round of the playoffs.
Yeah, there's a reason that's the early game on Saturday and not the late game on Saturday or on Sunday. But yeah, I think, like you said, Conor, who's going to lose in the first round? You can just book it in. This is the 6 p.m. game, the first Saturday of the playoffs in the wildcard round.
Yeah.
Best of luck. We know who's going to win. They're going to be playing the Seahawks or the Niners or the Rams possibly, and it's just going to be a good night.
That Seahawks 49ers game for all the marbles in the NFC and the NFC, it's realistically, it's for the NFC number 1 seed and it's for the NFC West. It's a massive game on Saturday night, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes as we preview the Week 18 slate and talk about what's at stake next week. I want to talk quickly as well about Sunday Night Football last night. Bears 49ers, a potential NFC championship game between those two teams. What an absolute shootout. The 49ers just about coming out on top 42-38. Caleb Williams desperately driving down the field, almost getting the win, almost causing an upset, as the Bears have been doing all season long, and could not just pull it out of the bag despite how hard he tried with his magic. The lead was tied. The game was tied at 5 stages during this game. 7-7, 14-14, 28-28, 35-35. But what a game from both quarterbacks. It was just sensational to watch, even if you only watched this short version of the highlights like I did myself this morning.
Just remember that we got to witness Broncos Jets in London.
Yeah.
And then contrasted to this.
Still having nightmares about that game.
Isn't it amazing that football, isn't it amazing that just like you can have two so different games of the same sport? What a joy to watch. I don't have much analysis about this other than I'd like to point out that Twist angered me last week by calling Brock Purdy a game manager. Well, he managed that game very well. So, but just
he also was the best. He was also the best player in that game. He was playing. Brock Purdy played lights out.
That's what I'm getting. The irony, he was bloody brilliant. He was amazing. That scramble and then step up and then sidearm to use check. That's phenomenal quarterback play. That is quarterback play of the highest level. Both were outstanding. A great team had to lose last night, unfortunately, and one of them did. But just a joy to watch.
We're lucky to get these matchups. It's so many good ones this year, especially from teams that were unexpected. Like these two teams, okay, people thought the Niners might bounce back. They may not be to the level that they're at now. The Bears are certainly unexpected, and look at what we're watching in the second last week of the season. Just unbelievable stuff from Purdy, and Caleb Williams had some excellent throws. To see the way that they've developed this season as well. Ben Johnson got his guys in the draft in Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, and what they've done as the season has progressed, especially last night, Burden was exceptional. There was one where he caught the ball short of the sticks and he just put this juke move on and left the defender in the dirt, and he was gone past the first down marker, and that was at a key moment. It was one of probably the only times that Caleb Williams looked to throw short of the sticks. He was every single time he was throwing on the move. Some of the throws to Loveland were unbelievable. That one where he knew he had the offsides, he bought the time. He knew he could eat a sack, but he just absolutely unraveled it. And Loveland looks dangerous from 5 yards, 10 yards. He could go 40 yards down the field. His pace, his size, that's some tight end. He could be the best in the league in a couple of years' time.
Potential NFC Championship game there between the Bears and 49ers last night. 49ers hosting the Seahawks on Saturday night for the number one seed and for the NFC West title. And look, just looking at both teams, how they match up, and you look at Sam Darnold had a couple of mistakes against the Panthers on Sunday, two interceptions, I believe, and didn't exactly blow them away. Seattle still relying on their defense there. For me personally, I'd see the 49ers taking this one on Saturday and going into the playoffs as the number one seed, just based on the way that they played against the Bears last night, and the fact that they put almost 500 yards on the Bears, which is something that the Bears are going to have to clean up, obviously going into the playoffs when you have to be at your best. But just so much at stake on Saturday night in this one, Conor.
Sam Darnold has not been perfect this year, but he has been very good, and he must feel pretty damn unlucky. Because once again, he's going in to a late night showdown where he's either the number one seed or on the road in the wildcard round. Like, it's history repeating itself. And then when you talk about history repeating itself, it's Niners Seahawks for all the bacon on the final day of the season. Like, we had this 6 years ago, the Dre Greenlaw stop on the goal line. It's, they say history repeats itself. It literally is. Again, I don't have too much analysis on this. I will go with the San Francisco 49ers. I think they are the better team. And that's why I'll go with them. But again, a really, really good football team is going to lose, and a really, really good football team is going to have to go to either Tampa Bay or Carolina and go through. I mean, it's ostensibly a bye, but just phenomenal the way the NFL has worked out this year, and we're in for cinema.
It's been such a wacky season. Let's just look before we finish up in a few minutes of what exactly, and we'll talk about the big games and the not so big games. Obviously, Monday Night Football tonight, the Falcons taking on the Rams. Not much to discuss there. I think the Rams are pretty much locked in where they are. Maybe some movements in terms of seedings, but what's at stake in Week 18? We have the AFC North title up for grabs, which we talked about. the Ravens and Steelers on Sunday Night Football. 1:20 on Monday morning, Irish time, Monday the 5th. I start my new job that morning, so I will not be watching that game. I will be tucked up in bed, ready for a fresh start. We also have the 49ers Seahawks, which we talked about on Saturday night. NFC South, Panthers versus Buccaneers. So just so many big games. I mean, the AFC and NFC number one seed are up for, there's several division titles up for grabs as well on across the weekend. Conor, what are you looking forward to the most? I mean, what to you kind of stands out as the most important game, or are they all kind of equally important? I mean, it's just such an incredible weekend ahead. Again, another incredible weekend ahead.
I'm looking forward to 7 hours of commercial-free football.
The last one of the year.
Yeah, without any distractions or any noise, right? I have nobody contact me on Sunday, right? I'm unavailable, or Saturday for that matter. I feel very appreciative that I got to do the podcast this year, and even more so that it's actually been this exciting all the way to the wire. And now it just gets better and better because this is basically the first week of the playoffs, right? That's how big these games are. But I just feel very appreciative for football in my life, for this podcast, and the cinema that I'm going to get to watch, whatever way it unfolds. And I don't even have a dog in the fight because Minnesota were out of it weeks ago. But I just feel very appreciative for the brilliant product that the NFL and this podcast is.
James, it's a hard act to follow that.
Yeah, go on, James.
I know. I didn't prepare a speech, unfortunately, but no, I to stick to the football side of things, I had one key thought, and that's on the Sunday night game between the Niners and Seahawks, as we just spoke about. But I'm just really interested to see if the Seahawks did manage to stifle McCaffrey the way they've done to many running backs this season, even slightly, even to 70% of what he's been able to give. Will Purdy be forced into a couple of mistakes? Because this Seahawks defense is not like any other. They don't rely on turnovers like the Bears. They are dangerous. And I think it could be a game that is very, very close, and it might be the Sam Darnold game that we'll all, mark down as the moment that he becomes someone that you can't deny anymore. He is a very high level quarterback. And although he makes mistakes, he's with a defense, as I said, that will bail him out of those mistakes, give him extra opportunities. And when he gets those big plays, we saw the Niners struggle to stop the Bears. I think they'll struggle to stop the Seahawks also. So I could see the Seahawks grabbing this one. I know you guys both went Niners, but I wanted to leave that little nugget in there as my.
I think to your point, James, Sam Darnold, when he makes a mistake, he doesn't kind of shrink. He doesn't look like a deer in the headlights. I know he was seeing ghosts years ago, but that's a long, long time ago.
That was the Jets as well, and they haven't gotten much better since then.
Granted, but I remember I watched a lot of Sam Darnold football, especially last year, and I always felt like when he made a bad decision, it just didn't faze him. The guy came out and was gunslinging again on the next drive. And in these sorts of moments, it's very important to have that sort of goldfish memory. Every quarterback needs it, but some of them aren't as good as others. The other thing with the Niners and the Seahawks defense is that Brock Purdy and the Niners, that their staple along with this run game is that play action pass, that intermediate 15 to 20 yard over the middle underneath the safeties. Seattle have some very, very good players in the secondary. If they can lurk one or two of those, they could change the game. So look for that. Look for them to try and stifle McCaffrey and then shut down that play action intermediate passing game, because if they can do that, they've got a real chance.
Yeah, I mean, the NFC is literally coming down to this game. It's winner takes all in the NFC at this point. It's going to be 49ers or Seahawks for the NFC West title and for the number one seed in the NFC, a first round bye and home field advantage throughout the entire playoffs. The AFC obviously it's a bit more complicated. If the Broncos beat the Chargers, they take the number one seed. But if the Broncos lose and the Patriots win, they take the number one seed. So that's also very. But then again, if the improbable situation happens and both teams lose next weekend, I think it's actually the Jaguars take the AFC number one seed.
They can still
which would be crazy to think about going into the playoffs. Jacksonville's number one seed in the AFC.
Jacksonville can take the one seed, but they can also end up a wild card, because if they were to lose and Houston were to win, Houston would hop them, take the NFC South, and Jacksonville would end up in the wild card. So there's a lot of potential movement. It will probably stay all the same. It'll probably go to as we expect, but it could go anyway.
And if the craziest thing of all happens and the Falcons beat the Rams tonight, and then they go and beat the Saints in the final week, it won't matter what happens in the Bucs-Panthers game. The Panthers are getting in because they have the tiebreaker. They'll all finish 8-9, and the Panthers have the tiebreaker over the Falcons and the Bucks.
Oh my God.
That would be an insane thing.
Where did you pull that information from?
Yeah, so if the Falcons win their next 2 games, that game is irrelevant. But it is before the Falcons game anyway. So we could get a situation where the Falcons somehow beat the Rams tonight, then the Bucks go and beat the Panthers, but they're still not in the playoffs until the Falcons go and lose.
So the Falcons can win tonight, and then the first game of next weekend is Bucks Panthers, and they'll win the game, but they won't get the hats and t-shirts because they won't know.
They won't know until the Saints and Falcons game, because they'll all finish 8-9 if the Falcons.
And they're relying on Charlie Smith.
Yeah, to bail them out. That would be an insane storyline if it went that way.
Football is right. This is why we love the NFL. This has been one of the craziest seasons ever, and I think we're going to have an absolutely fantastic finish next weekend with all these big games coming up. And we're going to be all waking up on Sunday and Monday morning, checking our phones first thing to see the final standings for the playoffs. And we will be back, of course, next week to review all of the action. Maybe not on Monday, but certainly at some point next week to review Week 18 games and preview the first week of the playoffs, which Super Wildcard Weekend starting on the 10th of January. I cannot wait. It's going to be absolutely insane. Lads, James, Conor, thank you again so much for taking the time. I know it's been a busy week. It's always a pleasure to talk football with you. Hopefully it'll be the same trio back next week for a bit of consistency. We won't pull Twist back in just yet. We'll let him have some time. He'll have his hands full now with two kids under the age of 4 running around the house. So the very best of luck to him. And but we wish him all the best. Thank you everyone for listening and watching wherever you are tuning in from. Make sure you check us out on social media at Gaelic Gridiron. Stay tuned there throughout the week as we bring the playoff action closer to you. Thank you again to our sponsors, Print My Pint. Make sure you check them out on social and on their website, printmypint.ie as well. Lads, thank you very much for your time, and I'll talk to you all soon.